With me today talking about generative AI is Matthew Sullivan. And Matthew, I'm going to read this because there's a lot of things I want to hit on with your title. You are the Chief Operating Officer at Sullivan Law and Associates, the founder and CEO of the consulting firm Unravel Legal, and also a member of the Professional Development Advisory Committee, which at ALA we fondly call the PDAC. Welcome to the podcast. I'm tired reading all that title.
Well, thank you. That was a great intro. Thank you for having me.
Excited to have you here. So one of PDAC's responsibilities is to kind of talk about the trends that are coming, what members need to be on the lookout for. And over the last several of our meetings, ChatGPT has been a hot topic. It launched in November 2022, and it's already the fastest growing consumer app in history. But before we kind of dive into things, I was wondering if you could kind of give us an overview of how the technology works.
Yeah, so I would be happy to talk about that. First, I would like to touch on how fast this is actually growing, just to give the audience a good idea of what it is that we're dealing with and how popular it actually is. So ChatGPT, as you mentioned, launched, I believe, at the end of November of 2022. It reached 100 million users in 2 months. Now, to put that into comparison of some other very popular apps or customer user interfaces, it took Netflix 10 years to get to that mark. It took Gmail 5 years to get to that mark.
Wow.
It took Twitter 5 years, Facebook 4.5 years, and it's I guess its best competitor as far as time frame, WhatsApp, took 3.5 years. So by comparison, it's been very popular, and as many have called it, a rocket ship as far as users and technology. But to answer your question on what AI is and how it works, I actually went to the source itself to figure out how this exactly works, because it is very complicated. And I'm not going to pretend to be a computer scientist. I'm not. You mentioned all of my titles. I am not a computer scientist, so I'm not going to pretend to know everything it is.
It's a lot to take in, so
yeah, it does a lot, and there's obviously a lot of complicated technology around this. So I asked ChatGPT to explain it to me like I'm a 12-year-old, which is a very good use of how to use this new technology. So it explained it to me this way. It is a super smart robot that takes words and breaks them into smaller parts like a puzzle. The robot then looks at each puzzle piece and tries to figure out how they relate to each other. After understanding the message or the prompt that you had given it, the robot makes a reply. It does that by guessing what word should come next in the answer, one word at a time, and it uses it by probability. And then after that robot finishes that reply, then it actually gives you the prompt back. So think of ChatGPT as your super smart friend that has read a lot of books and articles and knows a lot of things, but its memory stops after September 2001. So it knows a lot, but it doesn't know anything past a certain date. So think of that friend having maybe some form of amnesia after September 2021.
It took a little break. Needed a time.
Yeah, it's just it'll get back to you later about that.
So that's going to open up some questions that I want to touch base on later in terms of just the amount of crazy information. I don't know if you've heard that there's a lot of misinformation on the interweb.
Oh, I haven't heard. Can you tell me more about that?
Right. But before we dive into that, I kind of wanted to talk about legal implications specifically, because I kind of see it as two buckets. There's the workflow, the efficiencies, what it can do in the firms now, and the potential legal gray areas that are they're already cropping up, but likely ones we haven't even thought about yet. So with something that's so disruptive in terms of technology, what would you expect to be, how could it enhance the firm operation right now?
Yeah, so I think that this is something that a lot of people have an opinion on, and they are trying to read into the future a little bit too much with what is happening. I am of the mind that there's a cool new tool out there that we can use to leverage ourselves better. I haven't really tried to wrap my head around what is the future of AI and what is this going to do as far as like disrupting the world as we know it. Obviously, this technology is powerful and it is moving at a very fast rate. So for now, I can see this being utilized as a tool to leverage all of the very busy legal people that we are, whether it's in operations, whether it's attorneys, practicing law. Um, we should be using it for things that are repetitive as far as the tasks that we are doing. It could be used for things like research. Most of what I've heard is attorneys using this for, drafting documents, usually first drafts. It's really good for writer's block if you don't know where to start. Plug, your idea into ChatGPT, and it will spit something out for you that you can then start working on. So it's a good way to gain energy, momentum, and just get something on paper and move forward that way. It's also really good for proofreading and editing. Let's say maybe you create your own draft. I know, wild thought now these days that you actually, put pen to paper, or you start typing on a blank sheet. You can throw it in there and ask it to edit, and it can give you a very good response back with some good editing that you can really customize. You can tell it to make you sound smarter, make you sound like a pirate.
My dream.
Yeah. Make it sound like, I don't know if you're 12 years old or 100 years old, or if you want to sound like William Shatner. You can ask it to do all sorts of crazy fun things, but you can also use it in that very professional setting as well.
So I can see just in terms of like legal administrators who often have a lot of tasks, they wear a lot of hats. Like I can see this being something that really is a game changer for that specific industry.
Yeah, you can just, we all have way too much work to do.
Mm-hmm.
This can just help you get more stuff done and hopefully cause you less stress. But I really think its use, at least for me, is I have to put on this this new idea or this new hat where before I start doing a task, I can ask myself, hey, can ChatGPT help me with this? That is a training in itself to direct your attention there, as opposed to just rolling up your sleeves and getting to work. Like, can I do this smarter? Can I do this more efficiently? And there's this tool that's sitting there that can help you do that. You just have to almost retrain yourself to maybe use something like this to make yourself more efficient and to try and get all of those things that are on your to-do list. Just knowing that to-do list is never going to be done.
Right. And it struck me too when you're talking about writer's block, because that's something like I struggle with in my industry, writing and editing. In school, we always were taught just write anything, just start writing anything. And now it's like I can kind of go to ChatGPT and say, hey, get me started with this. And instead of cutting out that whole step where I have to, just start writing whatever I want to on the paper just to get the information flowing in my head.
Yeah. And I think what we need to wrap our head around too is like, ChatGPT is not all knowing and it's not always right. This work needs to be checked. It needs to be monitored by humans at this point, because as you just spoke to, it does make mistakes and sometimes it actually hallucinates.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, we all think of hallucinations in different ways. But typically it's not done with humans a whole lot, like humans hallucinating, going into those depths. But ChatGPT will hallucinate. Apparently, it does it less so from going its 3.5 version to 4. I think that was something that they worked on, but it should be used with caution. It will make up case law. It will make up facts. It'll make up a whole bunch of stuff that you need to put your eyes on and to read carefully, because as OpenAI has said, and kind of broadcast it is, don't use this for super important stuff. This needs to be used as like, some sort of risk assessment with what it is that you're using this technology for. If it's a high risk situation where you don't really want to rely on AI for, you probably shouldn't use it. And if you do, just know that that risk is there, and put your eyes on it, and maybe have someone else put their eyes on it, especially if you're using it in the legal context. It's at this point, it's probably meant to be used more for like low leverage work, like work that is less risky.
As my one of my favorite professors in journalism school used to say, if your mother says she loves you, check it out. Like, in other words, like, pay attention and check your facts.
Yeah, exactly. It still is technology. It's not technically software, but it is, it's something new, and like anything new, it's going to have its issues. So just, make sure, put some eyes on it, and check it, even if it's, your mother saying exactly what you just said.
So it seems like legal is at the top of the list in terms of industries that could be disrupted by this tech. In March, Goldman Sachs released a report. I think it was 44% of generative AI could automate legal jobs. So I could never really get a straight answer when I was preparing for this podcast. Like, some say they're going to eliminate jobs, some say it's going to enhance a job, others say it's going to create jobs related to legal that we haven't even thought of. So I just wondered if you could talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, this was a fun headline, I guess you can say. It kind of put everyone into a tizzy in the legal world. If you haven't heard about it, Goldman Sachs issued a report basically saying AI is going to replace legal in some capacity. I think to your point, it did tag a percentage on there. I think it said it could automate 44% of legal jobs. I feel like the headline was a big grab, but I feel like the language that it used to describe what AI was going to replace or do was very, very vague. And I think it caused people to start pontificating what it is that, AI is and what it's going to do. And it kind of sent people down a rabbit hole where, they're now left to guess what AI is going to do to legal. I think as of now, it's a great tool to use to try and, again, leverage yourself and your abilities. Is this going to replace lawyers? Is it going to replace administrators? I don't know, and I'm going to leave that up to a lot smarter people than myself to figure out. But at this time, it has just said it could. At this point, it could replace 44 or 47% of legal jobs. Is that happening now? No. Is that going to happen now? No. We don't really know what this is going to do and what it's going to be. We do know it, again, it's powerful and it's moving at a great rate of speed, but it's just too early to tell. We're just we're really in the first quarter of what this is done, and we don't really know what it's capable of at this point. But I'm gonna be cautiously optimistic about it, and just try and use the tool for what it is now. And we're gonna learn a lot down the road here about what its capabilities are and what it's going to do to not only the legal profession but society as a whole. I believe the same report said that 2/3 of jobs as they stand now are going to be impacted by AI, which that's a large number. 67% of jobs right now, again, could be impacted by AI.
Well, I think the switch here too is it's typically been like the more blue collar level jobs that have been impacted by automated technology. And this is a different animal here.
Oh, definitely. I think they're calling this like it's impacting the knowledge-based jobs, the white collar jobs, those types of professions with what this is capable of doing, but know that at this point, there are some things that, really are only things that humans can do that AI can't do. Um, no, it can't reason. There's no judgment there, and a
No
lot of what
empathy.
yeah, no empathy. It doesn't have any like social, reactions or cues to draw upon. So there are definitely limitations there from what AI can do now. Now, will it be able to do any of that in the future? I don't know. People are arguing both sides that, hey, maybe one day it will be, but likely not. So I mean, the legal profession, um, is it going to be impacted? Yes, but are there parts of this profession that will never be touched by AI, or likely won't be touched by AI, with things that only humans can do at this point, and really service clients on a level that they need to be serviced. We do family law, um, with our law firm. uh, I don't think you're going to get the same type of customer service if you're going to go to your AI chatbot with what you're going through with your divorce, as opposed to going to a human being that's experienced some of this and can relay some emotion, some empathy,
Give you a
and kind of
hug if you need it.
exactly.
Right.
So it's time and place part of that as well. So yeah, just know that at this juncture, it's not going to take over every part of your life.
So the alien, or excuse me, the robot uprising isn't upon us, is what you're saying.
Not yet, but I mean, there is a cohort of people that you can certainly talk to that are going to tell you that is where this is going to
Oh,
go, and
it's
these chat
scary when
agents are going to start talking to one another, and soon we're going to be taken over.
prepping for this pod was a little unnerving in some parts. Like, I think it was a New York Times columnist that played around with Bing, which is Microsoft's version of this, and that he just was having a chat with it, and it ended with "I want to be alive" with the devil emoji after it. Which, try falling asleep thinking to that. So, like you said, right now for legal, use it within caution, use it within certain guardrails, and it's an enhancing part of it. But I do, if you will humor me, kind of talk about some of the thornier issues related to this, because there is so much misinformation out on the internet. And if this is mining that information, it's like you're putting bias in and you're going to get bias out. So what are the guardrails that we can kind of put in place? I know you checking everything out, but when you kind of go down that rabbit hole in that context, it's like, well, is it scanning data like medical data? Is it getting behind firewalls? A lot of firms like will do benchmarking surveys. Even ALA does one. Like, we invest to give that data for our members. Is it mining that information and spitting it out? So I think there's going to be other issues that we haven't really thought about. And like, even from the legal aspect, I read this week that there's a mayor in Australia who is suing ChatGPT for spitting out a false story about him.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of ramifications that we can't even know of or think of yet that's going to happen as a result of this technology being used. I think some of it is beginning to rear its ugly head as far as pitfalls and unintended consequences of this type of technology. I think OpenAI has done a fairly decent job of letting the public know, like, hey, this is not perfect, and we're trying to use this to the benefit of society. Um, I don't know if people know it's OpenAI's origin. Uh, OpenAI is the parent company that has made ChatGPT, and they first started out as a nonprofit, and then switched after some time to be for profit. And its mission really was to use AI and control it for societal needs. And they've put it, as far as I can tell and what I've read, and as far as I know, they have opened this up to the public to start learning what these guardrails maybe should or shouldn't be. And they've had iterations between, obviously 1 through 3. We really didn't know anything about. 3.5 came out, and now 4. And they've they've opened it up to the public to learn from what the public wants and what the public needs. And they're using that information in this very closed loop. So what they've done is they've trained it on a set of data that's closed, nothing past 2021. And we don't really know what they have used as far as the data that they've trained this on. They haven't been very transparent about what it's been trained on. People have guessed about what data it has used. So as of now, it's in this closed loop, but it's being reinforced with human input, and it's the technology is learning through humans at this juncture on how to best relay the information, and it's being trained in that sense. So at this point, it's not out in the world, scrolling the internet like right now. My understanding is that there are some plugins, some browser plugins that maybe you could use that for to try and get around the 2001 September cutoff date. That's kind of where this technology is headed, where people are building technology on top of this technology with ChatGPT and making this technology even better. And I think that's what they've done, or what their intent was with opening their API to the public to say, hey, this is available for you to build on. But as far as being able to get behind firewalls and that type of information, I'm not entirely sure if it has done that. I know that it's not live and active. I know it's in a closed data set. But this may wind up being a battle of who has the best data set as all of these competing AI companies get out there. With Google, I guess Facebook is getting ready to enter the space. I've heard Apple's getting ready.
Oh
to
dear,
enter the
Facebook.
space. I mean, it's going to become who can get the best data, and seeing how this evolves.
So do you anticipate like IP practices and copyright issues being a thing? Because I know there's been some of these versions of this for artists in particular, like scanning and creating new images based on images that were other people took. Coming at this from like the writer perspective, like there's information that I haven't published a lot, but it's out there. I've researched, I've interviewed people, I've put that information together, and now it's kind of taking it and reissuing it in a way without giving proper credit. So I haven't seen a lot of citations with this. I think I did see once when I asked Bart a question when I was playing around with it, but outside of that, there's not a lot of credit given to other previous writers that it might have been lifted from.
Yeah, I'm not an IP lawyer. I'm not going to pretend to be. I'm not going to pretend to know the rules around this type of stuff in any technical fashion. What I have heard is that this technology is just too powerful to slow down. It's gaining a lot of momentum quickly. A lot of competitors are entering the space, and some of them are separating themselves from the space by giving credit to people who deserve the credit. With ChatGPT, we don't really know where this information is coming from.
Right.
Like I mentioned before, we don't know the data set that they're using. People, again, are guessing as to what they're using. There are other companies like Bard, which is Google's response to ChatGPT. I know that they will give some citations, and you can actually click a button that says Google whatever your prompt was to it. That's something that is different than ChatGPT. I know people are using. There's a company called Neva that is using AI for search, and they are giving credit and citations as to the prompts that you are putting in there. It is actually showing you where that is coming from. So that's beneficial for a lot of reasons, because you know the source, you can check it, and you can know if it's right or wrong just based off of whatever it has given you. But yeah, I think that's something that will have to be litigated down the road, likely, on who's getting credit for this and where this is actually pulling from. But my understanding is that the technology is just too powerful to stop. It's like a freight train, and this is going to keep going in that direction. It's not going to stop, as suggested by, the letter from Elon Musk and company to say, hey guys, let's slow down. We don't really know what this is doing or where it's going. That's not going to stop what's happening now. But I think it will get worked out. By whom and when, I don't know. But yeah, that's probably something that's going to have to be addressed.
Great. So kind of what you just mentioned, it's here, it's not going away. It reminds me in some ways of Napster. When Napster came out, it was like, oh my goodness. Like at the time, it was like, hey, we're getting music. And before you realize like, oh, I'm stealing music. But at the same time, that revolutionized the way we get music. It gave way to Apple, Spotify, all of those. So in terms of that, what do you see next for this? What do you see next for this in legal?
Um, you know, I'm kind of on the side of, I've read a lot of articles that have, pitted people again on the sides of where this is going. I think I would like to talk about the jobs that are going to be generated as opposed to taken away from this. Now, some people will say, for every one job this creates, we're going to lose 5. Others are saying that this may create whole other new industries or new jobs or new types of skill sets. I mean, I could see a future where there is a skill set and a need for people who can more or less control these types of bots or know how to use them best by putting in really good prompts. I mean, OpenAI has said, hey, this is really sensitive to the type of prompt that you put in. So the input that goes into, the chatbot, it will give better responses with better prompts. And it may be that may be one of the skills that we have moving forward is, who's really good at using this type of technology. I don't think it's technology that can be ignored. I think it's something that's going to have to be embraced. Who's going to be the people or entities that are going to be putting guardrails on where this is going to go? I don't know. Is there going to be, government stepping in, or, is this going to be left to the public market to kind of figure out and, sort out itself? But I can see how this is going to be a tool that is going to be powerful and here for a very long time. And new skill sets are going to be needed in order to use this. But is it going to take away a bunch of jobs? I don't know. Is it going to add some jobs? Probably. This is something that I don't think we've quite seen yet. I mean, I know people have talked about it in reference to, Napster or computers or, the internet, mobile. I mean, I just think this is more powerful than all of those things. And what it's going to be, I just don't know. There are sides on both sides of the fence here that are arguing every which way about how it's either good or bad for society, and how this shakes out. I don't know. I wish I could give you a better answer here, Valerie, but
we don't have a crystal ball, but it's just fun. It's kind of interesting just to talk about, honestly. It's like when you talk about in the perspectives of just how fast it was growing in comparison to things that we use every day. It just really is. It's hard to wrap your head around it. So, I mean, it's here. It's exciting. I've used it myself. And like you said, it can be, when used properly, it's a great time saver, specifically in a field like legal.
Yeah. But before I got on this and when I was asked to do this, and doing a lot of the research that I've done, I wanted to be sure to be a little more, I guess, optimistic about where this is headed. I mean, I think it's very easy to get wrapped up into, the doomsday scenarios as to what this type of technology could be, especially in legal. We're not an industry that embraces new things very well. I've
heard that too.
Yeah, it's an industry based on precedent. I get it. And something like this is naturally going to scare a lot of people in our industry. And I don't think it's something that we should be scared of yet or at this point. And I don't know if it's ever going to be anything that we should be scared of, but I think it's something that if we want to progress as an industry and just be better, this is something that we do have to embrace on some level. Lawyers are typically very cautious when it comes to new things like this. It's usually the job of the administrator to kind of push forward in that sense with new things, new technologies. That's incumbent upon us to try and push the envelope and move the industry in a direction that it has to go. A silver lining to COVID is that we move forward a lot with technology, and the courts finally started embracing it, and it started to propel the industry in the right direction as far as being up to date with technology and what it's going to do for the people that we serve, the clients that we serve. I think there's going to be a greater access to justice eventually, which I know it's always been an issue.
Right.
And that's been something that the legal industry has been, trying to get right and trying to figure out. This is something that could really help with that. This is something that might lower cost. In the short term, it may reduce revenue for a bit, but it's also something that if we look through a long-term lens, this could be a big boom for the industry if we embrace the technology and we use it right. It's just something that our industry it just can't shy away from. It's too big, it's too important, and it's moving too fast. We do need to embrace this on some level.
Don't get left behind.
Yes, you just can't. Yeah, you just can't get left behind. This cannot be ignored. So do your part, do your due diligence, use it. Don't be afraid of it. Double check its work, and it's going to keep improving and moving very quickly. And
I
as
think
those changes,
that's good life advice for anything, not just AI.
right, yeah. And just pay attention to it. It's going to be around, and we can make our industry better as a result of using this, in my opinion.
You know what, talking with you honestly talks me down a little bit, because like I said, when I was prepping, I was going down the rabbit hole a little bit, and it was a little, unnerving at times because you don't know what you don't know, but it's also not worth worrying too much about that now. Just kind of enjoy it, what you've got now, use it as you should be responsibly, and, move it along.
Yeah. Keep moving it along, and, keep an open mind. I think that's just really important with this is, keep an open mind as all of these new technologies are going to come out, because this really is just the tip of the iceberg, and people are building right now a lot of other AI companies, and they're building technology on top of this. And that there's going to be a specific legal space for this. That's going to happen. Someone's going to do it probably sooner than later.
Someone's probably working on it already.
Yeah, I know that there's something that's come out called Co-Counsel, I do believe. They have some AI, but it works differently than ChatGPT, where you're putting in prompts like that. I think you have to upload the documents, then you ask the questions, and it's going to give you a response back. It's a way to get through those voluminous documents in a more swift-like manner. But yeah, I mean, something's going to come out that's specific to legal, and it's going to happen with every industry. It's going to be medicine, architecture, you name it. There's going to be something for it that's specific for that industry. So pay attention. It should be fun. Hang on.
Good note to end on, Matthew. So yeah, Matthew Sullivan, as I mentioned, is a member of our PDAC. Recently, we took a deeper dive into this with all the members of the committee, talking about ChatGPT. All members are invited. It's free. We're calling them a peek around the corner with PDAC. I believe we're going to have more scheduled. So definitely stay tuned for that. Check your inboxes for more information to sign up, because it's a really informative group. I know I learned a lot just listening to you guys on our monthly meeting. So anything else you think we should be on the lookout before we wrap up here, Matthew?
Yeah. Not only is PDAC informative, but it's really a good time. We're not a terribly serious bunch. we do like to pay attention to, what's going on in the legal world, but outside the legal world as well, because there's a lot of ramifications as to what affects our industry. And we do like to kind of, as you said, peek around the corner, see what's going on, and let the rest of the ALA community and members know about what it is that we're seeing. And then, you guys giving us feedback as to whether that moves the needle for you or not. But yeah, it's informative, but it's also fun. It's a good group. And it's going to be an hour that's spent that you learned something and you also had a good time. It won't be a drag, I promise.
It's not at all. It's a very fast hour.
Yes.
Well, Matthew Sullivan, I really appreciate you being on today's podcast and, talking through all things generative AI with me.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. This was fun. This was a very good time. Hopefully it was helpful, and hopefully someone got something out of it that will help them in their job, and hopefully we have an outlook that is a little more rosy and a little less gloom and doom. But this was a fun topic. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. It did give me a little rosier outlook, I will tell you that. So mission accomplished there.
Great.
All right. Thanks for listening today, as always. And if you would like to get alerts for this episode, please go ahead and subscribe wherever you watch your podcasts or on our YouTube channel. And for more information, you can check us out at ala.net.org. And if you would like to watch a recap of the roundtable that we mentioned in this podcast, you can go to alanet.org/roundtable. Thanks so much.